We are live. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Well, welcome to the regular meeting of the Cohasset School Committee for Wednesday, September 4th, 2024. You're not seeing things. We're not back in time. Craig McClellan is still the chair. He's just going to be late, so I'm filling in as vice chair. And with that, I will call the meeting to order. We'll do a roll call. Ms. Hannah.
Here.
Ms. Leskey.
Present.
Mr. Carr is not present. Mr. McClellan is not present. Mr. Dial present. We do have a quorum, 3 of the 5 members, so business can be conducted at the meeting. With that, we'll move to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. So I do want to open the meeting on a little bit of a sad recognition of the tragedy in Winder, Georgia today, where there was, I hate to have to even say these, yet another school shooting. And 4 people were dead, 9 were injured in just senseless violence. And, our hearts naturally go out to all those impacted and to that community as a whole, which can only imagine what they're feeling at this time. So I just want to recognize that occurrence with a brief moment of silence at the committee level. So if you'll just bear with me for a moment of silence. Thank you. So, our hearts will be with that community. And, there are good news in our community in the sense that we have been focusing on safety as an issue. We did get our vestibule completed, securing the Osgood campus. So there's lots that we've been focusing on. Security continues to be a focus here. So we are laser focused on ensuring that our kids have a safe and secure school community. But we do need to focus on some of the good things that are going on in our community. School is in session again. We have happy kids coming to our schools and getting the best education on the South Shore, as I would say it. So with that, I'll conclude the opening remarks with one reminder there's a Buttonwood community event. I don't know, Sarah, if you have details on that or if there's anything I should add.
That's the community event that Buttonwoods is hosting. It's their panel event around the Anxious Generation book. And so we're continuing to remind folks and encourage folks to come be a part of that conversation. It will kick off probably a series of conversations at the different school levels around just how we're raising kids together as a community and what role specifically technology plays in that.
Which is very important. We think a bird tried to get into the school committee meeting. Not sure it's missing much, but we're gonna. It's flying in. And we will have the record show that Mr. Carr joined us at 6:04. So welcome, Mr. Carr.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late, everybody.
No worries.
Apologies.
And Craig's late as well, so I'm filling in. Nothing substantive changed. It's just a substitute.
My condolences too.
Thank you. So with that, we'll close off agenda block A. We'll now open it up for public comment. This is a period for individuals in the community to raise comments to the committee that are not about agenda items. Naturally, if you have a comment or want to plant a flag that you'll make a comment about an item on the agenda, you may feel free to do so now, but we'll address it at the appropriate time in the agenda. And with that, I will pause to see if there are any public comments.
At this point, there are no comments.
Comments? We'll wait a beat on that. No? Okay. So with that, we'll move to our next agenda item, invited guests. We have no invited guests, so we'll quickly close off that item. And fortunately, there's not an uninvited guests. I guess that's what public comment kind of is, but we don't have that, so we'll move on. And I get to have the pleasure of turning it over for the first time I've ever done it to our new superintendent, Miss Sarah Shannon. So Miss Sarah, Miss Shannon, you have the floor.
Thank you. I am going to share my screen and share. Let's hope this works. Allows. Nope, this is I might need to share it with you to share.
Yep.
I think we thought I'd be able to share, but my Zoom doesn't allow for it. So give me one moment. I thought we fixed this too.
Did you come as a panelist or an attendee?
No, it's a panelist, my settings.
Oh, because I'm looking, there's an attendee, SS, is that you?
Yeah. So,
That's what, probably why.
But she's also in as the host, so.
okay.
So, all right, and if you make me a co-host.
Let's see, we might just have to wing it. Just email it to you, see if you can get that. Share your screen to be able to. Roll to the no. Can you not share? Okay, so I have a really nice, can I send it to you?
Yeah, try, just try.
Okay.
Are you a co-host though? You're not a
I
co-
went in
you're
as
not
a panelist, so I should be.
I don't think you are.
No,
Dan
because-
is probably available because Sue's gonna need to.
Yep, okay.
I have the option to share my screen.
You do, yeah, I do too.
I could try to act it out with pantomime.
I
That
know.
would be helpful.
Um, sorry, everybody at home. Well, let's see if I can just do. Nope. Is that fine?
Are you
Access.
texting him?
All right, so I had some great pictures that maybe if at some point we can get access, we'll be able to share with folks at home of the opening of school. The first slide has this really adorable first grader who is jump roping and she's jumping for joy, and it was really fun to see those pictures. Amy Gaudette sent some photos over and they were just fabulous. But we have had a great first 2 days with students. Kids have been happy, they have been smiling, and it's been really exciting, not just to see the students happy and smiling, but the staff happy and smiling as well. Again, if you could see the pictures at the high school and the middle school on the first day of school, teachers were out and, had signs welcoming kids back. They were sharing really positive messages with students. They were fist bumping with students, and everybody was in really good spirits. At the middle school level, they had signs for the students to hold, which were really fun. Some of the eighth graders were holding like my last day of middle school signs, or I'm a role model, or I'm a mentor, and sort of showing off the roles that they have as the older kiddos at the middle school level. And so they were all coming in together. It's really fun to see, because this is the first time I've been in a 6 through 12 building, even though they're separate schools, but to be in spaces in the mornings where you see the high schoolers go off, and then we were out in the gym lobby this morning, and then the sixth graders are coming in for gym class, and to go from those, tall juniors and seniors in high school to a sixth grader is really fun, because sixth graders are really my thing. That would be awesome. So I can share. Some different rates. You could make that happen. That'd be great. And so then we went over to Deer Hill, and Deer Hillers were great. They came in excited. They came in ready to start third, fourth, and fifth grade. The PSO at Deer Hill did a beautiful job. If you go to the Deer Hill, there's this, I'm gonna call it an installation of fresh plants and flowers, and just this old wagon that makes it look really inviting when you pull up to the campus. And also a big shout out to the parents at Deer Hill who helped ready the courtyard for a school opening. So we're very grateful for them stepping in and giving us some last minute help. And then Osgood was just, I mean, there's nothing better than watching first and second graders show up for their first day of school. And then today for seeing the kindergartners come. There was only one kindergartner that had some tears this morning, which I think is, oh, Dan, you're awesome. Which I think is pretty miraculous.
Before you go, make sure she can make people co-hosts.
Oh, I should have that right to do that.
She didn't look for.
Panelists, and then go to attendees.
Yeah, so like if I go to Leslie, I could make her a co-host.
Because there's already
Who would I call?
you are in the board, and Sarah.
We've always been.
Just bear with us while we get our tech ironed out. We have expert support here, so we'll be back on programming in just a moment.
All right,
Let's see what we can say.
Oh, that's perfect. I don't think we have to do it house. Sarah, if you don't bring it, I think it's gonna be a co-host, not a host. You can do participants here.
oh, I can do it over
You can do it over here.
there. Okay,
Leslie, a co-host.
great. Okay, I'll do that once I'm done. Or you can do it now.
Oh, I can do that. All right.
Make me one too,
Yes,
please.
Okay.
all right.
So I am gonna show these pictures because they are worth seeing. So this is our little first grade friend who is jumping for joy on her first day of school. And then I actually started with welcoming back staff. Some of the photos aren't showing up here, but last Thursday, we welcomed back, or last Wednesday, we welcomed back all of the staff. Everybody was in the auditorium. It was a great day. I had the opportunity to introduce myself to the whole staff, let them get to know who I was. Some of them are already familiar with me from a variety of different roles, but this gave me a chance to help them learn who I was as an educator, as an educational leader. We talked a lot about community, and our theme for the year is centered around community and ever onward, because we are, as a community, moving forward. We're leaving one strategic plan. We have a bridge year, but we are using that bridge year to continue to move us forward as we build a new strategic plan. And the last photo that was on here is actually Officer Taylor, Greg Taylor, who's our SRO, who was there in the afternoon. You know, Mr. Dial referenced safety, and safety is such an important thing for us in the district. Our primary job is to keep people safe. We definitely are teaching students and we want academic success, but that can't happen unless our students and staff are physically and emotionally safe. And so part of our day really did focus on safety, both emotional and mental health safety with a Title IX training, and then physical safety, where Officer Taylor went through all of our safety protocols with all of the staff. And that's really important, because the more we review those with staff, the less anxious, the less they will freeze if, and hopefully we never do need them, but if we ever needed to engage in those safety protocols. But we even need to use them if we do a shelter in place, if there's a, you know, sometimes we do shelters in place for non-emergent situations. Sometimes we do them because we need somebody to be able to get out of the building. So they're not emergent, but we do need to use them. So this is helpful. And it just reemphasizes for everybody that safety is really important. We talked about making sure doors are closed and the things that we can all do as individuals that just take it one step further and allow everybody to be in a place that is safe and secure. So these are some of our high school pictures. Again, our teachers out front with positive messages, some fist bumping with Mr. Ayers as students came through the loop. And then students all gathering saying hello in the gym lobby as they were getting ready to head off to class. At the middle school, again, these are some of their signs that they were able to hold. And then just, you know, the middle schoolers coming down those stairs looking for their first period classes where they spent, or I think they started in utility and spent some time there. Our dear Hillers, coming in ready, meeting with staff, getting them ready to go into their classrooms. And then our Osgood kiddos, Mrs. Harms, it's first day of school at Osgood. I haven't been there for a first day of school in a very long time. And so seeing all the teachers helping the kids off the bus and just really getting them settled, and all of the teachers with their signs and making sure kids knew where they were going to be and that they were happy. And then our kindergartners came in today. I don't know why that picture's not showing up. I love this picture because it's a teacher and it looks like all her little ducklings coming off the bus following behind her in a line into the school. And, you know, one of the things that we said at the opening day for staff, and that I want to make sure we say publicly, is a huge thank you to our cafeteria staff, our facilities staff, our technology staff, our custodians. They do so much work over the summer to make sure that these buildings and all of the things in them are ready to go. And they did a wonderful job. Our buildings were shiny and new. And, you know, our Deer Hill staff who had to do a lot at the last minute because the floors were being retiled and our floors are done. And it took a little longer than expected. So there was some last minute scrambling, but everybody really pulled together. Some of our high school custodians went down to support the Deer Hill custodians. So it was a whole district effort and we're just grateful to everybody. And I know before I arrived, there was a lot of talk about the food, but if anyone has a chance to try the brand new pizza that is being served at the middle school and high school, it's really good. I think I would put it up next to any pizza place in Cohasset. And we have several. So it is real pizza. It is delicious. And I think it's a hit with the students. So
Mamma Mia's, is there Mamma Mia's?
there is not a Mamma Mia's in Cohasset, no.
Someone keeps saying it
So-
tastes like Mamma Mia's.
Okay.
pizza.
That's very good Okay. pizza. So the opening of the year went great. We're excited to keep that going. And looking forward to just starting to really get into schools and classrooms and see learning happening. Another thing I'd like to just mention, which isn't necessarily about the opening of school, but a congratulations to the high school. The Boston Magazine always publishes their top high schools in the greater Boston area, and Cohasset was number 14 on the list, which is a big jump. I think we were in the 30s last time. So congratulations to the high school for their hard work. All right. The last thing just to share as part of my report is that all of our fall teams for sports are gearing up. And so there's plenty of opportunity to take advantage of the weather and get out and see whatever sport is of interest to folks. And I even saw messaging out at the middle school that they're gearing up to start thinking about getting their middle school musical going. So there's a lot for kids to do right now. And we're 2 days in, but between all of those things, and I know both the middle school and the high school are having club fairs that they run during utility. So if anyone's at home and their children are saying there's nothing to do, there's lots of opportunity. So there we go. That's school opening. I'm going to move on and introduce a visitor. So we do have an invited guest, but she's actually on the agenda as opposed to just being introduced. So as a new superintendent in the state of Massachusetts, I have the opportunity to be enrolled in a new superintendent induction program. I think there are 20 something of us across the state this year, and it's a 3-year program. And DESE says that at all levels, you need to be mentored go through a program when you are new in whatever role that is. We offer a mentoring program for our new teachers. All of our new principals and administrators get mentors. And so I'm excited tonight to introduce you to Maureen LaCroix, who is my mentor as part of the new superintendent induction program. She is somebody who I get to meet with regularly, who comes to different events. She was here for opening day. And she's just somebody who has, you know, years and years of experience. She's been a principal, an assistant superintendent, a superintendent for I think 11 years. So a lot of experience, and so someone who I can just reach out to anytime I have questions. And she's at the days that I have to go to for the coursework as well. So she is here to share with you a little bit more about the program. And I am just grateful for all of her support so far, and so want to introduce you to Maureen LaCroix. You come on up and sit at the head table there.
Thank you, everybody, for making a couple of things for me tonight. So as Sarah said, she's part of a cohort of new superintendents. We have 21 superintendents currently in the program. And I say currently because what happens at this time of year is sometimes interim positions are filled and it's a brand new superintendent, so they will be invited to come into the program should they and their school committee decide that that's appropriate. The new superintendent induction program has been around for this 14 years. So this is the 15th cohort of new superintendents that have participated in the program. And it started 15 years ago as the brainchild of the State Superintendents Association and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, who saw a need to support new leaders in the superintendency. I mean, I don't have to tell you, you know well as committee members, it's a challenging job and it's a lonely job. So it helps to have not only a coach mentor to work with you, but also to have a cohort of people who are in a similar position, who understand, as I say, what does it mean to sit in that seat? You know, what does that really mean to be superintendent of schools? In the program, our focus is on instruction, instructional leadership, and team building, because we think those are the critical elements of schooling. So we spend time, as Sarah said, when they come together as a cohort for all day sessions, we'll spend time talking about team building. What does that look like? Talking about instructional leadership. What's your role as superintendent of schools, as the instructional leader in your district? What does that look like? And we also focus on, and you'll get the sense of that tonight from Sarah, we focus on entry. We think entry into the job is important. You come into this job as a learner. Even if you've been in the district, and some of our superintendents have been assistant superintendents in their district. I was assistant superintendent in Bedford before I became superintendent. But when I became superintendent, a very new role, and still had a lot to learn from the staff, from the community, from the kids about the Bedford Public Schools. So we try to help superintendents think about entry, what it should look like, who should they talk with, what documents should they review, so that they get fully versed about the community that they will be leading. This program, as Sarah said, includes a coaching component to it. And what I would say to the committee tonight is the coaching component is a confidential relationship between me and the superintendents that I coach. So I'm not here to be an evaluator of Sarah. That's not my job. My job is to provide feedback, to provide support, to be that listening ear, and to be that, I would say, colleague who has a sense of what does it mean to be a superintendent in Massachusetts. So I'm very honored to be here and happy to be doing this work. I was delighted to be here on opening day with your staff, because that gives me sort of a first glimpse into the Cohasset Public Schools. And I I have a sense, this will be my 7th year working as a coach with the new superintendent induction program. So I think I have a sense of climate and culture when I sort of just sit back, I blend into the background, it's not my job to be center stage anymore. So to get in the background, listen, and try to learn as much as I can about the district. But I can tell you that opening day just felt like community. So the goal that Sarah has articulated here tonight of developing that community, I think she starts at a really strong place, a platform, as she will say, to make the district even better, but she's starting at a good place. And that's as a result of the work of all of you and of the community. So I really am pleased to be here and happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions from the committee?
I didn't even know this existed. This is a wonderful
This
thing.
is great.
This is really good. Thank you for doing this.
It makes a huge difference to new superintendents, because the job gets more complex every year, and you just have to, I think, I think you have to have that support system around you.
Thank you for doing
Thank you
this.
very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. So as Maureen alluded to, part of the program is to be really thoughtful about what your entry plan is as we enter into our role as superintendent. And that's something that I was thinking about from the moment I got the phone call that I was being given the job. It's an important part of every role that I've ever had because it's an opportunity to learn. And so I have written an entry plan. I have shared it with all of you. I will share it with the district and with the staff and with families. We'll put it on the website. But I do want to share some of it with you tonight and give you an opportunity to ask any questions or provide input or comment. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I am going to read the first page, the letter to the community, because I think it's important. And then I'll talk more about the rest of the plan. And again, I will share this publicly as well. So dear Cohasset School Community, I am truly honored to be the superintendent of the Cohasset Public Schools. Throughout my interview process in the first months of my tenure, I have shared how special my being the superintendent here is to me. As a resident of the community and mother of 2 Cohasset Public Schools students, this position provides me with the opportunity to continue to follow my professional passions for education and leadership in a community that I care deeply for. This is my opportunity to use my talents and give back to the community that has given so much to me. Though I have a lot to learn about our school district, I know that we have strong students, caring and professional educators, and supportive families. We are a strong school district and we have the potential to be even greater. The strategic plan that just concluded in June of 2024 led to the accomplishments of many goals that have set us up for success. This bridge year will be crucial to continuing that work as we prepare to build on those accomplishments and elevate our school district. There is much more for me to discover about the district, and I am dedicated to a thorough learning process. My approach will be grounded in curiosity, inquiry, and humility. By engaging with students, staff, and families in analyzing various data sources, I aim to gain a comprehensive understanding of our district and community. Simultaneously, I hope you will learn about me as your new superintendent. I also want to acknowledge the collaboration I anticipate with Michael Stapleton, our new Director of Student Services, and Amy Gaudet, our new principal at the Osgood School. As we each undertake our own entry plans, we are eager to combine our perspectives to produce a richer and more accurate understanding of our needs, which we will share with the community in the spring. Thank you to all who have welcomed me and who have supported my transition so far. I look forward to continuing to partner with you throughout this process and beyond. And so for me, there are 3 real components for the purpose of this entry plan. And the first is really to be led by a question, which is who and what is the Cohasset Public School District? I stood up at opening day in front of all the staff and I said, I have lived here for over 20 years. I have 2 children in the district, and that gives me a sample size of 2 children. That is a very small sample size. So I have to come into this role with a learning stance to learn about other people's experiences and other school, other things that have happened in the school that I am unaware of. I can only know what I know from my own little lens. And so this is an opportunity to learn more. Everyone has a story, and together each story is the story of our district. And so I want to know what that story is. Additionally, this entry plan will help us, as I mentioned in the letter, transition from the conclusion of one strategic plan into a new strategic plan. In the spring, we'll be using a lot of data sources, my entry plan, the visioning through the feasibility study, along with other sources, to bring community members together to write a new strategic plan that's going to take us into the next 5 years. That's a really important process. And so me having a really deeper understanding of the district will help us do that more successfully. And then my other hope with this entry plan is to continue to help unify the district and the community. We started the year celebrating our community collaborations. We had CSCR there, Safe Harbor was with us, Working Dog was there. We had the police and fire departments. We had about 12 different organizations who support this school district in a really collaborative and meaningful way. And so how we continue to build those community partnerships is really important. And I hope that through this entry plan, I can continue to find ways to deepen those relationships. A lot of why I came to Cohasset is because of the philosophy of the Cohasset Public Schools. It's not just because I lived here. I think there's a lot of alignment. And my hope is that I can continue to find places where we are living into those values. And if there are places where we aren't, how do we continue to find more alignment? And so to do all of this, my entry plan really has 4 phases. The first phase was from July 1st till the end of August, so those summer months. I tried to take advantage of all those 8 to 9 weeks and meet with and talk to as many people as I could. I was really busy, and it was great because I really feel like I was able to start to get to know who we are as a district, but I need to continue that process now that we're back in school. Now's my opportunity to really get to know the teachers, to really get to know students, and to get to know our families. And so I will continue to offer for anybody to come meet with me one-on-one, but I'm also going to be creating opportunities where people can come to forums, where there'll be surveys. My hope is to go into Boston and meet with our METCO families. We have some structures already in place for me to meet with students, but also thinking about other ways that I can meet with students and hear additional voices is going to be important. The third phase of the entry plan is to take all of that information and that data and process it to present to you some entry plan findings. This will be something that I share with you towards the middle of March, and that we then in phase 4 use, as I've said a few times, in our strategic planning process. When I meet with people, and so this is good for anybody to know, I've been asking sort of a series of 5 questions. And it's, what can you tell me about yourself and your connection to the Cohasset Public Schools? Excuse me. What are the strengths of the district? So if they could say to me, don't touch this because it's great. What is that? What are the district's areas for growth, or what do you hope I'll pay attention to? I've been asking people, and this has been really interesting, what do you think I should know that you think I might not know about? And that's been a really interesting question to ask. And then I've been asking people what they need from me. And so those questions have led to some really great conversations. And I look forward to having those ongoing conversations with folks. In addition to the qualitative data that I'm gathering through conversation, I'm also going to be looking at some quantitative data. We're going to be looking at a survey that we'll send out and gathering data that way. And then I'm also going to be doing a document and data review. So there are a lot of things that I've already started to get to know and more that I will continue to read and learn about as the year goes on. I think part of the focus of my entry plan is really thinking about equity and belonging. I feel really strongly and shared this at opening day with staff as well, that in order for all of us, no matter how old we are, if we're pre-K or we are a seasoned educator, we all need to be comfortable bringing our full selves to the schools. And how we are able to do that matters, because that makes us better teachers. It makes our students better students and more able to learn and be better able to achieve at higher levels. So making sure that everybody in our district has a sense of belonging is really important to me. And so that will be a focus of mine throughout the entry plan process, is getting a sense of how people feel about that. Excuse me. And so, you know, my hope is that through this entry plan, I have the opportunity to have some really intentional conversations and connections with people. My hope is that even once the entry plan is over, that just continues. I think that's very much a part of who I am as a person. And so that won't go away. So if people don't have the opportunity to talk to me as part of through the entry plan, my hope is that they'll continue to come. I do have an open door. I would encourage folks to have conversations with me, meet me, introduce yourself when we're out. You know, if you see a game or a concert or wherever we might be. My goal through the entry plan and beyond really is to continue a tradition of excellence in the Cohasset Public Schools and enhance the experience for everyone, for our students, our staff, and our families. So it'll be a lot of work over the course of the year, but it'll be a good year. And in the end, my hope is that everything that I have learned helps us create that new strategic plan that moves us into the future. And as I said earlier, ever onward, right? Like that's our theme for the year, and that's our goal. So,
Thank you very much. Ms.
yeah.
Any questions, comments from the committee? Open up, Steve.
I feel like I'm someone who sort of picks up like words versus and I just love the sort of joyfulness with which you described the start of the school year, but also the intentionality with which you're really addressing excellence in schools, belonging in schools. And I think it's a great sort of branching off point from this current strategic plan to sort of polish the gem a bit in very specific ways. And I think the things that you mentioned were highly sort of specific and measurable. So I'm excited to see where this goes. Thank you for your hard work. I mean, this in addition to running an entire school is a undertaking in and of itself.
I'll just add that my hope for you coming in, as we discussed during the process, and as well as that the schools as we have them didn't necessarily need a change agent, but we needed someone to come in and learn about what we're doing right, but not be afraid to change things. And that's what this plan says. That's what you're showing. So I'm super excited about your learning adventure and what the next year will hold. So thank you for sharing that. With that and the arrival of Mr. McCullen, our fearless chair, I'm going to do my last act as acting chair, closing off the superintendent updates, and I will turn it over to you if you're ready.
I am ready. Thank you very much. I apologize for my tardiness. I had some coaching responsibilities.
Basketball, I see.
So we'll move right into the budget update, and I'll turn the meeting over to our Director of Finance and Operations, Susan Owen.
Thank you.
They don't make
Okay.
these.
Ah, Sarah today.
Here we go.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Here we go. Okay, well, thank
Was
you,
it-
everyone. It obviously isn't gonna be exciting as what you just listened to, but, I too was there on opening day at all the schools and it was fabulous to see the kids. I mean, this morning, the kindergartners, I mean, there was a set of twins that just popped out at me and they were talking away, telling me who their teacher was and it was just, we just had it was a great start. And on to the bad news. So tonight's report is gonna be, the end of year 2024. So July 1, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. Wasn't a great year. We did survive. We did have some shell games and shifting that we had to do. I know there are many other districts who were not as fortunate as we were. So I am thankful for that. But still not delivering the best news. So as of June 30th, the school department expended $23,386,707 out of our $23,404,421. So we pretty much spent 100% of our budget and then some. It took some balancing. We are carrying $18,713 in encumbered purchase orders. If any of those purchase orders get canceled or come in at a lower amount, anything remaining gets returned to the town. It doesn't come back to the school. But we have used every last cent that we have. We used our circuit breaker that we carried from the year before. We also had to use a good portion of our circuit breaker for what actually came in the existing year, which is not typical for Cohasset. Some districts, I'd say 50% of the districts live in the year. We were fortunate enough for the past many years to be able to carry. This was not the case. Dr. Sullivan and Dr. Scollins and I had multiple conversations about it. I think Mr. McCollum and I spoke briefly about it. The only way to balance was to utilize a good portion of our circuit breaker. So I wanted to at least address some of the lines, not all. The complete report is included in your packet. So if you want to go line by line to see what accounts were over and under, there are quite a few. The ones that stood out for me, which no surprise, transportation, which we talked briefly about, talking about fees. Timeline didn't work out to get it in place fast enough for the beginning of school this year, but obviously this year will be a very in-depth conversation about transportation fees and what we can do differently in transportation, both regular and special education. Utilities, same thing. We used a little bit more, but the cost of utilities has gone way up. And if you remember on one of our original draft worksheets, we had asked to increase utility accounts. We had asked to increase some transportation accounts. We had asked to increase custodial supplies and materials accounts. And when we met with the town manager and the town finance director and found out what the percentage would be that will be allotted to the schools, there was no way to increase any of our budgets. It clearly only covered our rollover costs. So there was nothing added to our budget for FY25. So you can see, and there are some one-time fees like the Oscar vestibule. We knew we went out to bid and we didn't have enough in capital to cover that. So the operating budget did cover a piece of it. That definitely will go away. Transportation for this past year, we did lease a bus from First Student in the wings because we were waiting for our electric bus to arrive, which arrived, I think, sometime in April, May. So we spent almost a full year leasing a bus from another district. And then the custodial supplies, materials, and the custodial salaries. Again, we have taken on in the last year all the landscaping of anything immediately surrounding the buildings or the courtyard. So right down to we had to purchase all the equipment, the lawnmowers, the weed whackers, the shovels, the rakes. And then we had to do the labor hours. Our custodians' daily work was already in place and full. with an 8-hour day, so a lot of the landscaping had to be overtime. So we didn't receive any additional budget or transfer of budget from any other department such as DPW or grounds and fields to help offset any of the costs that we was then gonna incur. So yes, we are a deficit in those areas because we took on more with the same amount of money, same amount of labor. And then special ed tuitions, which is not a surprise, that fluctuates day to day, month to month, hour to hour at times. So this is a brief overview of what those items are. Mrs. Shannon and I have already sat and started to go through line by line, just to try to figure out, and doing a budget analysis of, what can we do differently? What can we change in order to move forward with this year's budget and not have the same things happen? But definitely, when we start projecting for 26, we are gonna have to ask for more money in some of these accounts. There's no way around it. I mean, cost of living has gone up, utilities gone up, supplies go up. So I itemized that so you can see some of the areas. I can certainly go over it in more detail if anyone wants to off cuff, meet when I want to go over it. But it's our transportation, our utilities, and desperate need of increases. And we did have some salary accounts that ran over. Some of them were just the fact that we do have a small allotment for staff to move to a different lane. And we had quite a few this year that moved from, for instance, a bachelor's to a master's or a master's to a doctorate. And that entails an increase in salary. So to get into the circuit breaker. The circuit breaker funding we received in FY23 was $1,170,609. We kept that in its entirety into FY24, which is our past practice. And we expended that. The amount was a 35% reimbursement rate, which has stayed the same, thank goodness. Circuit breaker funding for the FY24 was anticipated being about $1,036,000. The original intent was to roll the entire amount into the FY25 budget. Did not happen. When we closed the year, and Dr. Sullivan and I had conversations about whether to bring this up in June or to wait until we had more definitive numbers. Few things happened. We had finance director of finance, town accountant leave unexpectedly. We had some salaries or payrolls that were supposed to be July 1 FY25 payrolls were charged back to FY24, which put us in more deficit. It was a little bit over 100,000, right around $100,000. So we had to back all those numbers out. And because there wasn't a town finance person, there was no one to do it. So it took a little time to get some clean, clear, transparent numbers, which is why the delay in reporting of what we did. That gave us back about $98,000 out of FY24 circuit breaker to roll into FY25. We qualified for reserve relief, which was an additional $141,000, which we had to utilize. We did not qualify for the extraordinary relief, which we were anticipating about $280,000, which did not come forward. So again, we couldn't count on that. We couldn't count on the circuit breaker for that. So in order to balance FY24 shortfalls, $1,078,000 of circuit breaker that we intended on carrying forward had to be utilized, leaving us $98,391 to be carried over to 25. Estimated circuit breaker that we're going to receive this year is 1.3, which is an increase of about 300,000. So that in itself will help us offset any shortfalls that may come our way. Other things we did was in the past, we've looked at revolving accounts and getting their balances down to a manageable amount. So in order to balance FY24, we did have to go into the transportation revolving. We left very little in many of the revolving accounts. Just to name a few, like some of them we can't touch, the PSO, the CEF, can't touch it. Athletic revolving, anything that we could transfer off to the athletic revolving, we did. So it left athletic revolving with about $4,200 left in it. Another example would be, the school transportation. It left us about $4,800. We utilized that. Same thing for preschool. We got creative with the help of our new food service director, collaboratively. He said, you can charge utilities to me. I've always paid utilities. Practice in Cohasset, as we haven't always, I don't think we ever in my time have charged cafeteria for utilities. One, because we didn't need to. This became a need to. We could charge off part of custodian because the custodian is part of a custodian is cleaning and taking care of the kitchen and the cafeteria. We could charge off a small percentage of our accounting specialist that manages all the invoices in the revolving fund for food service. So we got creative and charged off some of that. With the free lunches, we have quite the pot of gold in our food service, so to speak. And that's with all the increases. I mean, there's been phenomenal increases in pizza ovens to juicers to, I mean, we're spending the money. Uniforms, I noticed they all had new uniform. They had all jackets and shirts on today. So, and that still left food service with about $400,000. So still in pretty good shape, and thankful that we could reach into our revolving accounts to help offset our shortfalls. Going forward, as Mr. Shannon and I, talked about, we have to be very, very careful, and we're literally budgeting line by line by line. If you're over by $1, the answer is no, unless you transfer it from another account, because we have to start managing the increases in different accounts. So not to be the bearer of bad news, our capital projects went great. Voted capital for 25. A lot of it's done. Daniel tiling right down to the last minute of school starting. We were watching them the last few days as they were picking the leftover glue off the floor. So those, as Mrs. Shannon said, those custodians did a fabulous job with the help of, the team of custodians, because they couldn't clean their classrooms or clean their hallways until the floors were done, they were dry, and all the furniture was put back in, as well as the courtyard. We had a bunch of trees cut down, and I know she thanked parents for that. DPW went in and cut down a bunch of the overgrown trees and then didn't have time to remove them from the courtyard before school started. So a group of parents, I believe, actually did that. And once they did that, the custodians had to then clean that floor area again, because all that stuff came through the main office. So I don't know if, I'm sure there's questions. Everything else here is pretty much the same. It's FTEs by building, budgets by building. Utility breakdown, you can see, increase for electric. We spent $394,000 last year. We spent $515 this year. Gas, we spent $132 last year. We spent $162 this year. I've talked to facilities to find out, one is the rates, the contract rates, obviously up. Two, it depends on when you use, do we use it during peak hours? If you use it during peak hours, obviously it's cost more. But I know we just redid all the lighting, and I personally thought I would see a bigger savings in that. So I'm working with Nick in facilities to find out, where that savings is, or is it still coming? Because we didn't see it. And if we did, then we would have been in worse shape utility wise. So just going forward, like I said, we're gonna focus on the budget. Obviously, this was a difficult year. This was a difficult year for many districts. Not to make it okay for us, but there are other districts that are $10 to $18 million ending the FY24 school year, which we were fortunate enough to be rolling our circuit breaker. Lots of districts don't do that. Not a practice I'd like to continue, because it's nice to have that to fall back on, but for this past year, we didn't have an option. Questions?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Owen, for that update. Any questions for Ms. Owen? We'll just move in alphabetical order. Mr. Carr?
What? Thank you for your work. I was on the subcommittee on this, so I'm not surprised. We really did talk about a lot of this stuff. I'm glad we are where we are. I think we ought to really think hard about how we do it differently going forward. I think that's going to be important, which unfortunately will mean probably do more with less. But I'm not sure how to get there, but we could be in worse shape.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Mr. Dial?
So, yeah, I have a few questions that I want to go through. So just taking together, the transportation is probably the biggest single offender on our deficit line items, coming in about $475,000 over budget. It looks like, based on the line item stuff later on in the packet, that, and I may be reading this incorrectly, but it looks like we must have doubled the salaries of our bus drivers, and I don't recall doubling, doing that. So I just want to get an understanding of how the staff expenses on transportation seem to have gone up by 200%.
So we did increase their hourly rate. It went from, we did not double it. It went from 26 and change to 32 in order to get drivers and keep drivers.
Yep.
We increased their benefits. So we gave them, they had no sick time. Not that that is, that's not a big factor in those numbers, but we did give them some sick time and, some personal time. And an incentive that if they didn't use it, we would buy it back to kind of, to convince them not to take the time unless they really needed it. We also added the bus from First Student, which was a one-time, it was just for the year. It was at least for the year. I want to say it was $500 a day. I don't have it off the top of my head, but we had to lease a bus this past year from First Student because we did not have the electric bus
What was the, just roundabout total outlay on that?
to lease it. I'd have to look. I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, I have it. I can definitely get it to you.
Close to
It's in here.
$300 a day, 180 days in a school year, so that's about $60,000, which would be almost what you cost to buy a bus. And about six times what we pay to lease the buses that we have in our fleet now. But I believe the First Student we came with the driver, so that may offset some of that expense. But even so, that's 60 grand. We're still trying to account for $500,000.
The First Student bus did not come with a driver.
Oh, it did not.
The year before, we had two drivers from First Student, two buses.
Okay,
This past year, we needed the bus, but we had the drivers.
got it.
On top of that, we have 8 routes and we have 11 drivers. Partly because we don't want to run short on drivers. We don't want to double up routes when we have a driver out. And then we have athletics and, other field trips that we need those spare drivers. And to tell the spares, as we call them, the spares, that they would be called when needed. They're just going to go find a job somewhere else where they can drive a route every day. So we guarantee them all.
So do we add staff?
We've added drivers, yes.
Okay, added drivers. Okay, because yeah, the budget item for 2024 was 169,000, and we ended up spending 363. So we overshot a bit.
What else happened? Not, like I said, not to justify any of those numbers because they're all disappointing to me. We had high numbers in our revolving accounts over the past years that we could fall back to. And the direction from this committee, Paul, who was at my left most of the time, wanted those revolving accounts spent down. So in the past, we had the ability to spend them way down. Once they were down, there was no more extra sitting there. So a lot of it then gets transferred back over to the regular budget.
I noticed that what is our budget? Are we, given that we spent on 2024 transportation, I'm just going to add special ed and regular together about 570,000, 560, 570,000. Do we have, that was our budget for 2024. We spent about $1 million. What is, are we budgeted, are we set up for failure right now on our budget? Or are we budgeted at what we anticipate our transportation spend to be? Do we expect another $1 million year? And if so, have we budgeted $1 million for transportation?
We are not set up for that.
Do we expect another $1 million year?
I am expecting a possible shortfall, not $1 million, which Sarah and I had a conversation this morning about what do we do now to stop that from happening.
Yeah, so if we're already I would love to learn more about what our projections are versus
Right.
what our budget is versus what our projections are and how we want to
Exactly.
close that gap.
No, exactly, and I understand that, and that was, like I said, in one of those draft worksheets, we had increasing transportation account, increasing utility account, and we asked in our budget worksheet drafts for that. And when the town told us what the number was we were getting, all it would cover was that rollover cost, so all of those line items, or I shouldn't say wish list, but all those asks came off. So we knew, we had conversation, we knew that we were gonna have shortfalls in most areas, which is why I put them on there as an ask. And then we talked about, you know, let's look at fees. Wasn't enough time to dig deeply into fees. But if we're not gonna get more money in the operating budget, the only other way is to generate revenue through fees. So,
One of the
It's a
things
big
that we
discussion.
talked about doing this morning was really looking at sort of what we actually spent last year versus what's budgeted and where we may not be spending the money that's budgeted and how we might be able to use some of that to offset some of these unanticipated that are somewhat anticipated now, costs. And that we may, you know, I know that last year the budget was frozen in the spring. It may be frozen sooner this year.
So that's helpful. One more question, Mr. Chair. That's,
Yeah, before you go on, would it be helpful to, because I think you were trying to get this at one point when you were chair, is like a more like detailed analysis of the specific transportation item, sort of broken down to look at like exactly what we spend the money on, what we anticipate spending the money on for the coming year. It might be a good time to do that right now, because I think you're asking questions and there's a lot of sort of like, there's a little bit of conjecture here as we don't have the specific numbers in front of us.
Yep.
So would it be helpful, you think, to the committee to have that and we can have someone put that together?
I was going to request that under future agenda items as a
So,
deep dive. into
so I'll
transport.
just make a note of it and we can do that. Okay, but so
My next question is not
Sure.
about transportation.
that's why I was
Yep.
asking right now about that. So go ahead.
Thank you. One more question. And we may have, I think you've explained this before, but why is why do we have $900,000 in school lunch receipts? Where does that come from? Is that grant? Is that, what is that
so
about?
that is the reimbursement that the state gives us for every student meal that we sell.
So we are
So we don't
charging,
sell, so we don't charge the children.
Yeah.
Basically, the state pays us for every meal.
and they pay on a given schedule, like a given fee rate, like one meal is $8 or something like that?
They have a reimbursement rate.
Right.
Each month, we file how many meals, how many breakfasts, how many, you know, middle, elementary, and we receive full reimbursement from the state on them, which is, I think, hopefully gonna be a permanent thing going forward, which is allowing us to do collective
Right.
things in our food service. You know, the question has come up in the listserv for business staff is, what do you do with all this money? Because food service isn't, it does generate revenue, but not this much revenue. And now districts are saying to DESI, what do we do with it? What do we do with it? What can we do with it? So we've been trying to do many things with it, which we have plenty of places to improve still. But we've made great strides, but those are receipts that come in right from the state.
Okay, so that's the state reimbursing and at a rate that they have set.
Yes.
So,
A small amount of that is adult meals,
Yep.
but it's a very small amount.
so I raise it just because that you mentioned it as a gold mine, if you will. But and Mr. Carr probably can second this because these sorts of imbalances in state finance often find a way to resolve themselves with lower fees and reimbursement rates. So I wouldn't structurally plan on continuing to have that for forever. But that's just my thought.
Why don't we look into that in the subcommittee? But I do know that Mr. Cadone is trying to utilize that money wisely and making improvements. And he already made some to the, especially at the elementary level, but does that, okay. Next up is, in alphabetical order is Ms. Hannah.
I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hannah. That helps as Mr. Dial went over his allotted time. Ms. Leskey.
Minutes.
I think I have a comment and a conjecture or an idea. One is, I appreciate that through this sort of discussion that there's at the leadership level an attention to these details that really need to be attended to and the forecasting that needs to be done to sort of not find ourselves in these places, which may in fact involve some really tough decisions around spending as soon as, you know, the coming months. So I appreciate that those conversations are already going on. And then here's just my wildfire idea. If we have people on our payroll who are only working as needed, is there the opportunity to create hybrid roles where someone who has their bus driver license might also be helping out on grounds custodial services and working a hybrid role, so they're actually being paid for service to the district versus being paid for being on call?
So
Or has that been tried?
we do have several of them that also work in the kitchen.
Okay,
Yeah, in between.
well, I mean, those kind of things, yeah, it just seems to make a lot of
They
more sense.
don't, so just to clarify, they are working.
Okay,
They're not being paid to sit. They are working. So last year, we had to put one of our drivers, spare drivers, on as a monitor on a bus because we were having problems with a bus.
okay,
So that person was a monitor. This year, right now, we have two buses that have a large group of kids, pretty much at capacity. So those two buses, I believe it's bus 6 and 8, each have a spare driver monitoring, as well as what we're trying to do is, in the past, the drivers have not had the ability to have a list and take attendance because of timing.
Mhm.
So the directive we've asked now is for these monitors who are riding to, over the next week or two, take attendance on who is on that bus. And who is on that bus that doesn't have a tag, which means that person is not registered and not paid. If they are a patron.
Is there some suspicion that that's the case on the buses?
We have found some. I want to say this probably not a ton, but there are some. So right now, that's what we're doing. They're riding each bus. There's 6 and 8 have the monitors, but we have the third one that they're going through each bus to get a list of who. Because I overheard conversation this morning outside my office with Geraldine, who does a lot of the registrations and stuff with the transportation supervisor, saying, wow, I didn't realize there was that many. I mean, yesterday we had 40 children registered. And our routes were already set. So now we're back to revamping our routes because some of those buses are full. So where they would normally be isn't where they're going to be. So we're trying to narrow that down, and not that that's going to save us a ton of money, but I think it's going to bring in some.
Well, I think I'm just also happy to hear that salary dollars and
No,
human
no, no.
power is
They
being
are-
used to
They
the
are
benefit
actually,
of the district.
they are actually
Yeah.
working.
Okay.
And then on the flip side, we have one that does a lot of late buses. So it's a 6-hour day for bus drivers. So this particular person does the late bus for Metco. Is driving in and out of Boston. So we're making sure everyone is working their time.
Mhm.
There's no one sitting. And we had a bus driver meeting the other day and said, you know, and for fairness, if you have bus 2, because the bus drivers were sitting there already come in and pick their routes. So the newbies obviously get put at the end and other things. But if I'm a monitor on your bus, we offer the drivers, do you want to switch off? You know, we want them to continue driving and have their practice. Or would you, as bus driver on bus two, want to drive just morning or want to drive just afternoons? Non-paid. None of them wanted to give up hours like that. But we did suggest then switch off. Take turns driving, you know. So we keep their skills current, and it gives the driver a break. The driver can monitor, the driver can get to know some of the kids on the bus better without trying to do it through a mirror and driving. So, you know, try to get creative with them without losing drivers. And athletics is a big one. Running short on buses for those areas, but definitely there's lots and lots of athletics that our drivers can be doing.
Thank you.
But I think it's that type of critical thinking that we need, and maybe we can delve further into that when we talk about the transportation in further detail. But just also note that Superintendent Shannon has discussed in collaboration with others, potentially retaining or engaging like an audit consultant to sort of look at our budget and see where there might be waste, you know, and that might be something that we're going to explore. I mean, that could cost money too that we don't have, so we might not be able to do that, right? But it could be something that may be a wise thing to do. So we'll see. Now, I don't know if that was mentioned before I arrived, but I
No,
just
I
wanted to
didn't,
mention that.
sorry.
But, okay,
We did talk about that.
okay.
I'm going to reach out to MASBO, which is the Mass Association of School Business, and see if they have suggestions for companies out there that do like budget analysis. Just to get an idea of what it would cost.
Just to see if there's some waste that we can sort of mitigate and also maybe some duplicative spending that we can avoid. But we'll move on from the budget at this point and look forward to maybe a more in-depth analysis of the transportation facets of that budget in a future meeting. And we'll move over to the disposal of surplus materials, Ms. Owen.
Yes, we will.
We have a request to dispose of several materials,
So we
including a
have-
bunch of math books pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30, Capital B.
Correct. So we have lots of math books.
Well, everyone received these as agenda component E2, and they're listed what they are and what the quantity is. I don't know if everyone has had a chance to look at them. If they have any questions about them, we'll just move forward in alphabetical order. Mr. Carr, do you have any questions about the disposal of the materials?
No questions.
Mr. Dial?
None.
Miss Hannah, I'm sorry.
No questions.
Ms. Leskey, do you have any questions about the disposal of materials? Okay, is there a motion to dispose of the materials as requested in agenda component E2? Motion's been made by Mr. Carr. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Dial. All in favor, aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously and passed. So, Ms. Owen, the committee would ask that you please dispose of those materials as requested and presented tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your update. That concludes the budget section of the agenda. We'll move right into the school facilities section of the agenda. I'll turn our meeting back over to our superintendent of schools, Ms. Sarah Shannon.
Thank you. I have two quick updates. The first is on the Osgood roof. So on August 23rd, the MSBA came down and took a look at the roof. We did a field trip up to the roof and then around the building as well to see the problem areas. We were one of the first schools that they visited. And so they still had a lot of schools on their list to get to. Their next board meeting is October 30th. And so we won't expect to hear anything back from them until around that date, because they're going to do all the rest of their visits. But they saw our roof, they saw our problem areas, and they really saw the preventative maintenance routine that we have in place, which does help us in the MSBA process, because they know that we have a plan to take care of it should we get a replacement roof. And then the other item I have is to just share a little bit more about our middle school, high school feasibility study. So this Friday, our leadership team with AI3, our architects, will be meeting to establish which schools we're going to go visit. We'll be visiting schools on September 16th and September 23rd. And then next week, I think we'll be sending out a letter to staff and to the community to enlist their engagement in our visioning sessions. Just to let folks know if it's something that you're thinking about, and the details will be in the letter. Those meetings will be from 8:30 to 11:30 on Monday, October 7th, Tuesday, October 15th, and Tuesday, October 29th. And we will be asking folks to be able to commit to all three if possible. And as I said in the last meeting, if people can't commit to that but want to know and be a part of the process, we will have community forums as well that are come as you can and will be full of information. I think what I would ask of the committee is to think about and be able to share in anticipation of these visits, who would be coming on the school visits and who might be representing the committee at those visioning sessions. The visits are full day visits. They're morning to night. And so not late at night, but they're full day, full work day. So that's something that I would ask that you consider, not necessarily in this moment, but in anticipation of being able to go on the 16th.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And I appreciate all your leadership on that so far. It's getting a lot more complex than it has been to date. So I'm personally very thankful that you're here because before I was sort of lead on that, and I don't know that I would have the bandwidth to deal with that at this point. So thank you for that update, Ms. Shannon. Are there any questions on any of the school building or feasibility study updates moving again in alphabetical order, Mr. Carr?
None.
Mr. Todd?
Real quick question, and I may have misheard. But the feasibility study is for the middle high school,
Yes.
right? But you had said that in connection with the feasibility study, we're going to decide which schools to go to.
So
So-
we're gonna go look at schools that are already building.
Other schools, not
Other-
our schools.
Not our schools.
Yes,
Sorry.
as in,
Nope.
okay.
We're going out into
I
the
thought you
world.
were going to Osgood.
Yep.
I don't know if that would be helpful. No.
Yep, we're going out into the world and seeing other places.
Thank
You
you.
can go see us.
I'm just a committee member of this district. and a very narrow view of the
Yeah.
world.
We're thinking the high school needs a set of big stairs.
Get some ideas. That's not a bad idea.
We actually stole those stairs when we built the building in Situate.
Oh, there you go.
Color
They're
upstairs.
famous. All right, well, thank you, Superintendent Shannon, for your work on that. Oh, I'm sorry, but I didn't finish the round of questions. Ms. Hannah, do you have a question?
All good.
Okay, Ms. Leskey.
But I appreciate that this is moving forward.
We will somehow coordinate who is involved and we'll welcome that. I don't think we need to do it right now, as
I
Ms. Shannon
agree.
just noted.
I just
I
did it.
think he's nominating
Oh,
you.
I
Second.
am without
All in
a doubt
favor?
being there. I will absolutely be there, but there may be others that want to, or and others that wants to participate without violating open meeting law. So thank you for that. We'll move into the community relations communication section, which is primarily for our reports from any committees, subcommittees, or liaison positions. So I didn't invite any updates at this time. Moving again out of order, Mr. Carr.
One of the committees I watch is Select Committee, and maybe it's something we could discuss as a future item. I noticed they have many issues before them and regularly discuss amongst themselves school and school department. And I think we might want to think through how we might suggest getting in a more regular cadence with them so that we can answer questions that they might have about our fine work here more than speculating on there. So maybe we could discuss how to do that.
Do you have any suggestions?
We should just probably get in a regular cadence, like once a quarter, and offer to come and see them.
Isn't there a select, I'm sorry, isn't there a select liaison to, or select person who's supposed to be a connection to us?
I believe that the current chairperson is the liaison of the school committee, or at least was before she was chair. So that may have changed because that responsibility is a little bit robust, but I don't know. So yes, would it be appropriate, Ms. Garvey, thought if we just reiterated who the liaison is and invited them to attend a school committee meeting once a month, or if we?
I was
attend
thinking
theirs?
we might want to go and appear with them because they're doing some real forecasting about stuff that will affect us. Overall budget, as we get into how we want to discuss budget with our our contract negotiations, it will affect us. So I think in some way, we should just think through how we want to make sure we are readily and available to them.
Well, let me ask this of the group. Does anyone want to volunteer to be the select board liaison? And if not, we can all cycle through.
I
But does
think I
anyone-
am, but I.
So are you,
Let's go
is this suggestion, is this a
I'm
self-suggestion?
sort of thinking some joint sessions periodically between us and them,
I see.
so we can have a
Okay.
real discussion about
Oh, got it.
the money of the town.
Okay. And are you thinking monthly for that?
No.
Oh.
just Some regular cadence that
Quarterly
everybody
might
could
be
live with.
appropriate, yeah.
you know.
Okay,
You know,
all right.
We're a significant part of their
I will
budget.
raise that with,
There's a lot of discussion about us without us there.
okay, I'll raise that with Ms. Mar, and thank you for that suggestion, Mr. Carr. Ms. Hannah, did you want to be recognized?
I was gonna actually ask if there were certain topics that you were concerned about, but you already shared those, so.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is that it, Mr. Carr?
That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Dow?
No updates from me.
Thank you, Mr. Dow.
You're welcome. I feel like I'm paying penance for
Miss-
my
Miss Hannah.
3 minutes.
Before you got here, Craig, we talked about the lack of paint out on the roadway here on Pond Street.
Mm.
That I'm on the sidewalk committee, and so they gave an update that it's gonna be 3 weeks. And then we talked about the flashing lights, so that's all.
Oh, are you talking
On the
about the Mr. Kearney flashing lights that he had suggested?
No, I
Oh,
don't think so.
I don't know what those are.
illuminated,
Those are not there.
illuminated crosswalks, in front of the
No,
school.
I think that I'm not sure if the flashing lights that are at the crosswalks at Pond Street, or that demark the, school zone on Pond Street are actually flashing, because there's a yellow flashing light in addition to the speed flash. And I've never seen the yellow lights flash, and
You have to be going fast enough.
I'll try it tonight. No, I won't. But Mrs. Shannon also suggested that maybe that flashing light only happens when someone's attempting to cross the street, which maybe I've not run into, but I know at the end of Pond Street that's closest to Bancroft, there is no button to press. There is a button to press at the closer to 3A, because you have to cross the street to continue to walk on the sidewalk, or something like that.
Okay, so what's an action step here that you want?
There's no action. I'm following up. We have a sidewalk and roads committee meeting next week, but so I'll follow up on the sign, but just more of an FYI. Apparently, the roads are getting
Perfect.
painted in 3 weeks.
Great, okay, great.
So I know that's come up.
So the
a
roads
bunch.
being painted will be the action step.
Yes,
Great.
and finding out about this in the crosswalks.
Awesome, okay, thank you, Ms. Hannah. Ms. Leskey, do you have any updates?
I just connected with Megan Berry, who continues to be the president of the CEF, because I'm parent liaison. 2 grants have already been enacted, and I think we heard about one of them, the middle school garden, last time we met, but the Gaga pit has also been resurfaced and was used a lot this summer, and I'm sure it's also an integral part of recess and Mr. Newman's PE program. So they are off and running with a great team and some new members on their board. So follow them on social media. They will be having one of their big fundraising event again this fall. I believe it's in Hull at the Parrot. I don't have a date, but I think they're working on a date, but keep an eye out for that, because it's a great way to support an organization that does a lot for our school. Oh, and if you need a bus lanyard, for all those people who registered today, if you still need a lanyard, connect with the CEF, because they still have lanyards for your bus passes. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Good update. Thank you, Ms. Leskey. I don't have any updates. I was late. I would have said this at the outset of the meeting, but I wasn't here. And so I feel like community relations was the next best time to mention this. I don't know if we did mention, so if we already did address it, that's fine. We did. Great.
The horrible news.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I just like to acknowledge that, because we need to make sure that we're always thinking about that. And, perhaps, who knows, additional SROs, we added some safety last year, safety measures to Osgood, which I think were really critical to make. So we just need to be really vigilant, because that can happen anywhere, anytime, and it's extremely tragic. And I just want to make sure our educators and our students feel really safe. I think we're all on board with that. And we just had the safety meeting with all the officials, but, and you probably already went up through this. It's, as you know, very important to me. And I cannot stand this, and I can't believe it is something that is just still happening in this country. But it's not just a gun violence issue. It's not just a school safety issue. I think it's a student health issue. And I think that all entities' goals, I think at the building level, at the district level, at the committee level, we're all focusing on student emotional, social wellness, or social emotional wellness and mental health wellness. So, and I think that's a good thing. And I think we need to continue to do that. And I think that the community discussion that the superintendent likely reminded us about at the beginning of the meeting, or Mr. Dial did, I think that's related, right? It's a step in the right direction. It's talking about student health and having candid conversations about that. So, thank you for indulging that. I just wanted to make sure we talked about it, and I wasn't here for this first conversation. So, moving on, school committee governance. We do have a couple of the policies that Dr. Scollins had, a couple of the group that Dr. Scollins had presented last time that we hadn't actually been able to take the vote on. So we need to vote to approve those two today. Specifically, they are policy ACAB and ACR, components H1 and H2 of your packets respectively. I think that Dr. Scollins, I will turn it over to you, but these are again, essentially, are these
You did already
just
approve
the
these.
new ones?
So we had to take Michael Stapleton's name off because he hasn't been trained yet.
I
And
see.
so based on OCR's requirements, and our Roseanne DePietro's recommendation, we had to take him off.
Are these the entirely new ones?
Those are the new ones. We're just taking Michael's name.
Okay, so we did have these, I was thinking we didn't have the entirely new ones, so we didn't vote them. So we did have them, we just had to
Yep.
slightly revise.
Yep, so
Okay.
under the ACR, non-discrimination policy, including
Okay.
harassment, retaliation. So we had to remove Michael Stapleton as a designated Title IX coordinator. I'm the only person. And then under ACAB, we had to do the same and take him out.
Are those the only revisions? Okay, so you are asking for a vote on those
Yes,
modified
please.
revisions
Yes.
as presented tonight. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion has been made by Mr. Nile. Is there a second?
Sorry.
Seconded by Ms. Hannah. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. So Dr. Scollins, we would ask that you please implement those policies immediately as presented. Thank you very much for your work on that. As we continue to strive to maintain Title IX compliance. Next agenda item is topics not reasonably anticipated. We do not have any that I'm aware of, unless any member of the school committee is aware of any.
Aware of
Speak now. Any topics
you
that I
were
wasn't aware
unaware
of?
of?
Yes.
Okay, no,
Okay. No. Mr. Carr, do we have any?
So no minutes, but good news, I have caught up. I've edited now everything. I'd like to be in touch with Jennifer so I don't overwhelm everybody, but we're ready to go.
Great. Well, we're not really that far behind
Not at
anyway.
all.
So, I mean,
Just, they're lengthy and, half a dozen of them at the same time is probably not the right way to review them.
sure.
So
All right, well, we thank you and Ms. Bog for your continued
I would
vigilance.
be lost
in that regard.
without Ms. Bott, for sure.
Future agenda items, we touched on at least two, which would be, well, I guess a quarterly joint session with the select board isn't really an item, it's just a meeting. But the transportation accounting audit would be one. Are there any other topics that anyone feels we should add to an upcoming agenda that we haven't already discussed in the past? And just speak at will.
the only thing I would add, just given the sensitivity to the budget, I know we get regular budget updates, but if we could have just kind of progress on where we need to get things closer to budget, I think for us to keep a closer eye on exactly where our projected expenditures are versus where we're budgeted, I think would be really helpful for future reports.
Okay, so no additional item, just
Just
a tweak to the reports. Okay. And Ms. Owen, you understand that request?
I do.
All right. Anything else? All right. Well, then we'll move into executive session for reason number 3. In accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 30, capital A, Section 21. subsection A, which is discussing of collective bargaining strategy, excuse me.
And strategy.
Is there a motion to move into executive session at this time for the reasons stated, and we will not move back into regular session to adjourn. We will adjourn straight from the executive session. Is there a motion to do that? Motion's been made to move an executive session by Ms. Leskey. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Carr. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Roll call.
Okay. So all members in favor, please indicate so in roll call. In alphabetical order, Mr. Carr,
Aye.
Mr. Dial,
Aye.
Ms. Hannah,
Aye.
Ms. Leskey.
Aye.
And I, Craig McClellan. So the motion unanimously carries. A vote of 5-0. So we'll move into executive session this time. Thank you all for joining us. We will not reconvene in regular session to adjourn. Adjourn straight from the executive session. Thank you.